are these people?
So, oh my goodness, I'm doing a show with autopilot. No. What the hell? Thanks, OBS. Really appreciate that. Thanks, OBS. So you got to, yeah. Shawn Fain has purged 3 top allies. We know. Again, we've mentioned Margaret Mock, who was a Secretary of Treasurer. They stripped her of her responsibility overseeing various projects and departments in the UAW, right? That was in February that they had announced this. 2 years earlier, Fain, a white Bible-quoting factory worker from rural Indiana, had tapped Mock, a black auto worker from Detroit, to be his running mate. During the campaign, incumbent UAW President Ray Curry, a black man from North Carolina, made issues of Fain being white. So, Mock's inclusion as a black woman undoubtedly helped Fain's ticket win narrowly, with only 483 votes cast out of a total of 136,485 votes from the potential UAW rank and file. Wait, what? Yep. Less than a year after serving as Fain's running mate, again, the lowest attended and the lowest turnout of any union in the history of the United States. Less than a year after serving as Fain's running mate, her demotion shocked many, particularly black union members who constitute approximately 25% of the UAW's membership. So, a concerned UAW member says that without Margaret Mock, there's no way that Fain beats Curry, and it's shocking that no one has clear answers about what's happening. Well, we kind of know what's happening, right? In the wake of a federal scandal that saw many top UAW officers go to jail on charges of embezzlement, bribery, and self-enrichment, Mock implemented an open bid process that made the union's financial spending practices more transparent and tried to move the UAW away from a system of political patronage that has existed in the union for many decades. Away from a system of political patronage, okay? Do you hear those words? Remember those words.
That sounds nice to me.
But her new accountability measures angered Fain, who successfully sought to have her demoted in February, claiming that she was hindering the UAW's ability to quickly spend money on key organizing projects.
Where's the money, Lebowski?
Yeah, right. After her demotion, Mock filed a complaint with federal monitor Neil Borowski to investigate. And as she should, right? She said in a statement to the Detroit Free Press, quote, "When policies are established by the UAW International Executive Board and or by the special monitor ordered by the court to oversee the UAW and or by federal agencies, it's my responsibility when these policies concern UAW finances to diligently make sure these policies are adhered to." Makes sense, right? While it saddens me even further that I get criticized, attacked, and retaliated against because I insist on the policies that are in place be adhered to, I will not waver in enforcing financial policies intended to protect our members' sacred dues dollars. Well, demoted at least. No, worse. They didn't fire her. They tried to manage her out so that she would quit. As part of that federal consent decree, a federal judge, as a reminder, appointed Neil Borowski to be the federal monitor of the UAW in 2021. Why? Because they got indicted for embezzling $1 million. I believe it was Ray Curry himself. Under the federal consent decree, Borowski has the right to demand emails about internal decision-making over spending matters and publish the information in regular reports. UAW members read the reports religiously as they debate the union's tactics and strategies. Union members were clamoring for more information about what was happening to the top leaders. Quote, "The head of the UAW removing the VP, that's huge. And that's a UAW union president That's Eric Fleming. He told Detroit News there's confusion on the plant floor. As you should. Right? Margaret Mock requested that Borowski investigate these matters and publish independent findings so that rank-and-file UAW members could have a clear idea of the feud between the union's elected leaders. Because we all also know that in addition to Mock being demoted, and we've reported on this, last month, UAW's VP for Stellantis workers, Rich Boyer, was also removed from office for dereliction of duty, as Fain told union members last May, except after reaching deals with Ford and GM during the stand-up strike, nonsense, the union rushed to reach a deal with Stellantis as well. The quickly reached deal agreed to controversial language that has resulted in the layoffs of thousands of Stellantis temporary workers. Now, as the summer progressed and layoffs intensified at Stellantis, Boyer faced criticism from UAW leadership. Now, he claims that Fain and his senior staff, including Benjamin Dichter, who's a lawyer, and Chris Brooks, they were aware and pushed the deal by the UAW at Stellantis, that all the UAW was in on this and pushed it. It wasn't him. He says, your action against me implies, and he wrote this open letter. Damn, he burned it all down. He just let it all, he spilled all the tea. I love it. Your action against me implies that your staff had no visibility or involvement in our discussions during the 2023 negotiations with Stellantis? It's unreal. He says, that was a blatant lie, insult, and a personal attack on my credibility. Right?
That was a lie.
That was a lie, sir. Boyer says that he had opposed several of Fain's spending decisions. Right? In particular, he had opposed his attempt to give his romantic partner and her sister an enhanced early retirement as part of their leaving the joint UAW Chrysler National Training Center.
Bro, enhanced early retirement is like what you can get prescribed in Canada. All right? That does not not at
the UAW. Great. No, what you get is a very nice package. A financial package to walk away from the company.
Package. I see.
Yeah. 50,000, a year or two's worth of salary plus benefits and pension and all kinds of goodies to walk away at this point. And then you're free to go do whatever the hell you want and earn another income if you want. There's nothing stopping you. Right? So when running against UAW incumbent President Ray Curry in 2022, remember that Will Lehman from WSWS also was running from Socialist Party, and he's now still suing them in federal court, and he won a lawsuit about this because they were stonewalling him for being able to communicate with the membership about his candidacy. It was crazy. They just wanted to make sure, like this, duopoly. It had to either be incumbent. No, it wasn't Curry that did the corruption. It was the one before Ray Curry. He replaced them. But
what about Steph Curry?
It might have been. No, he's a basketball player. Sports. But when he was running against Ray Curry in 2022, Fain and his allies heavily criticized the practice of keeping relatives and romantic partners on the union payroll. And then he did the same thing. They attacked the previous union president, Rory Gamble, for having his son employed at the center. Right? And that's that National Training Center for UAW Chrysler. 10 union.
It's like a lot of Company Inc.
It is. 10 union and but it's not Company Inc. It's Union and Company Inc. Remember, it's a third-party broker intervening that isn't just representing the workers at Chrysler. They're representing a lot more people, and they have their own interests and priorities. And it ain't necessarily the workers at Stellantis overall. Right? But 10 union and 3 Fiat Chrysler executives have been charged with using center funds to finance their lavish lifestyles, and some are already in jail. That's what Chris Brooks had written in 2019. That's who was mentioned earlier. But of course, the center served another purpose as a source of jobs, including sham jobs for friends and family of union officials. And then Fain turns around and does the same thing 4 years later. Really? As people within the UAW raised questions about the employment of Fain's romantic partner and her sister, talks began about how to figure out a way for the two to leave the union. As part of the negotiations, Fain requested that his partner and her sister receive an enhanced retirement package so that they could retire early. To avoid having the enhanced early retirement package raise regulators' eyebrows, he then requested that every worker at the training center get the same bump, a provision that Boyer objected to as being too costly. So basically, he wants to give everyone a raise so that his girlfriend and her sister could get raises on the way out and get a better severance on the way out. All right? That's
sure.
And Boyer,
sounds like.
And Boyer said, no, that's crazy. I'm the Chrysler rep. That doesn't make any financial sense to UAW. Now, I always want to see people get paid more, but not if it's because the guy wants his girlfriend and her sister to get paid more on the way out. That's kind of messed up. Right? And maybe it's not. And I'm guessing they did this anyway because they fired Boyer. The demotion of Fain's running mate and top Vice President Stellantis continues a troubling pattern of Fain purging his top allies when they don't agree with him.
Yeah.
Apparently, I've been accused of the same thing here at INN, but I don't run a major union, so fuck all that. We run a little shitty YouTube channel. In March of 2023, Payday Report obtained documents showing that Fain had already fired his previously handpicked chief of staff and most of his previously chosen top senior staffers. I think that's because they knew all about what he was all about. The mass firings came after Rio and then top Fain staffers raised concerns about the top-down approach of a controversial Brooklyn-based union consultant, Chris Brooks. After other staffers raised similar concerns, Fain also fired several top allies, and I'm not going to name them because there's like 5 of them, but later Susan Pratt, another one, a 6th, chose to resign in solidarity with them. Rio addressed concerns regarding the dismissal of Fain's previously selected senior leadership team and its implication for the UAW reform movement in a 5-page memo written February 22nd after his dismissal last year. And there was a story in Payday Report last year about that. And Mike covered that. That's what he was trying to say, because Mike's good. All right. Fain's senior top staffers had expressed their concern about naming an inexperienced, white, social media savvy former labor writer to a top leadership position within the very racially diverse UAW. Feels, man. Vibes and feels. The union's previous incumbent president, Ray Curry, is also a 58-year-old black man from North Carolina. I don't know why race really... Right. Not that there's anything... I don't know why race is playing into this at all, but I'm guessing that Mike's going to get to that. Payday Report obtained a 5-page memo in which Rio voiced similar concerns that Brooks, a longtime Brooklyn-based union consultant, routinely downplayed and short-shrifted the perspectives of black workers. That's why. Furthermore, the group of close Fain allies expressed deep concerns that Brooks, who Fain has chosen as his right-hand man despite never having worked for the UAW or been a member of a UAW bargaining unit, operated in a style that could severely hurt the UAW reform movement. Because that's the plan, guys. In June of 2020, Brooks drew heavy criticism when he dismissed the possibility that Black Lives Matter was inspiring a massive upsurge of strike activities in the early stages of the pandemic. I think it might have been the pandemic, too. It wasn't just BLM.
Which they should have been doing.
100%.
Like, I like how they're like, oh, God, we can't have more strikes. You're a union. People want to do it. Do it.
Well, no, nobody wants to not work and earn money and earn $500 a week strike pay, but they want to hold the bosses accountable and earn saying more. That yes, they're voting. The activity
was like people were wanting to do that.
Yeah.
You know, Like, they saw what was happening in the streets already. They're like, we can do that. You know,
Sure.
You're already losing a lot of work from pandemic. Like, you know.
Well, as he says,
I just find it crazy that was like a sticking point for them.
Yes, it is.
You
It
know?
is crazy. Brooks's comments led many black leaders to criticize him as racially tone deaf for saying that. Again, saying that Black Lives Matter was dismissing the possibility that BLM was inspiring an upsurge of strike activity.
Right.
So
yeah.
He said, my concerns and the concerns shared by the team members listed above are that Chris has assumed a role in the transition and in your future administration that he does not possess the experience or personal maturity to carry out. You're talking about representing hundreds of thousands of workers nationwide. Right? In a short time, his lack of transparency, his need for control over departmental discussions, that's weird micromanagement, his need to control access to you, and his apparent lack of ability to work in a real collaborative manner became apparent. So after Rio and his allies left Fain's transition team, right, Chris Brooks proposed that the union engage in the purges of staffers in the union that was narrowly divided during the union's presidential election in 2023. Brooks suggested that UAW leadership investigate its workforce to see who was loyal. He wants a Gestapo, is what he's looking for. Okay?
Sure.
He says, ID those who we can work with, move the program, ID those who need to be purged. He wrote in an email obtained by the Detroit Free Press last year. That's the paper of record in Detroit. Gannett owned. The demotion of the UAW's black secretary-treasurer, Margaret Mock, brought again back to the surface a feeling of uneasiness among union members, particularly black union members, because in court documents, Borowski is now charging the UAW with failing to turn over information about Fain's purge of his allies. Did somebody say some racist shit in those emails and they don't want to turn them over to a federal monitor? Could that possibly be happening here?
Tired of hearing about your damn emails.
Again, Neil, we're going to hear from Neil Borowski again. In court documents last month, as of the date of this report, we said more than 3 months after a monitor's initial document request, the union has produced a very small portion, only 2,600, of the current potentially relevant pool of approximately 116,000 intentionally, and with more than 80% of those documents only produced days before the issuance of this report. There has been a similar lack of production for the monitor's embezzlement investigation into one of the union's regional directors. What? Yes, they're stonewalling all over the place. Because what happened? The union has justified its delays by advancing arguments that the decisions regarding Mock's demotion were privileged information. It's classified. I can't tell you. That's privileged. Steeped in privilege, right? However, both the Justice Department, which is overseeing the consent decree of the UAW, and the Federal Monitor have rejected this argument. So they've already been ordered to do this, and yet they're just not. If access is given to the documents, it could hurt Fain politically within the union, giving the Fain administration a motive to conceal them. Yes. All right. Borowski's Federal Monitor reports paint a troubling picture within the UAW of union staffers and leaders frustrated by Fain's quest to consolidate his power base and purge union leaders that he sees as, again, disloyal. Again, these are people that call Trump authoritarian. They call Trump a Hitler dictator. Listen to what's going on here. Anyone that has any type of dissenting opinion is purged.
You see, we're a family here.
Yeah.
You got to be loyal to the family.
Crazy.
Forget about it.
A recent culture assessment conducted by the union's internal audit function uncovered remnants of that culture still at the union. On the one hand, there were several positive aspects of the culture assessment, with most union staff members reporting that they feel a strong sense of mission and purpose, driven employment, gain a sense of personal fulfillment from their work, and feel motivated and inspired by the UAW's identity in spite of Shawn Fain and all of this. All right. However, while the UAW and its telegenic president, Shawn Fain, were getting good press, a survey of hundreds of UAW staffers conducted by the Monitor's office showed that feelings within the UAW were also very troubling. And he says, based on hundreds of anonymous survey responses, the culture assessment also found divisions and silos within the union that are negatively impacting the union's culture. For example, the survey revealed that a concerning number of union personnel continued to fear retaliation if they were to report misconduct, and that many harbor the same kinds of concerns that were present at the start of the monitorship. Start of the monitorship being 2019, I believe. Borofsky's 124-page report was sent to the UAW's 300,000 members and widely read. For many union members, it raised deep questions about Fain's purge within the UAW. This was the first time a lot of them were even hearing about this. Quote, although the Monitor will make no judgment on whether the actions of the president were appropriate until after he concludes the investigation described in the Monitor's 9th status report, these events have been perceived by union staff that has already had significant concerns about a culture of fear of retribution as confirmation that even the highest ranked union officials can be subject to retaliation, wrote Borofsky in July. Yeah, no one is safe. If you're standing next to Fain and you question him, he's going to cut you out because we know that he really works for the Democratic Party. So the minute you start questioning the Democratic Party or their methods or the donors, you're out. Specifically, reports to the Monitor's hotline from union staff have cited the actions taken against the Secretary-Treasurer and Vice President as driving retaliation fears that reporting alleged abuses might lead to retribution from the president's office. Not might lead to, no, did lead to. Given the fragility of the union's cultural perception of retaliation, whether they were appropriate or not, how these recent acts are perceived by the union staff must be taken into account when tackling this persistent cultural challenge. One longtime UAW leader joked with me that Fain was like Walter Reuther, both in a good and bad way. You got to remember that Reuther purged a lot of people. I don't know who Walter Reuther is.
People who don't know who is Walter Reuther?
I don't know. So
okay.
I'm guessing that he was an old UAW person.
I'll do a Google.
Yes, please look that up for me. Confidential data from surveys. R-E-U-T-H-E-R. R-E-U-T-H-E-R.
American civil rights activists.
Aha. Okay.
Organized labor and civil rights activists who put the United Automobile Workers into one of the most progressive labor unions in America.
He was a former UAW union head. That's what I figured.
Yeah.
All right. Confidential data from the surveys of several hundred UAW staff conducted by the Monitor found a deep culture of fear within the UAW. Again, in the words of union employees, that internal audit reported to be representative of this cohort, the union needs to end the toxic idea that fear is a motivator, correct the retaliation, and remove the culture of fear and retribution at the union, wrote Borofsky last month in that report. And that's federally publicly available. That was written for us. We paid for that as Americans. The data gathered during the survey underscores the widespread nature of the concerns of these staff members. For example, of the approximately 100 union staff who reported that they witnessed unethical behavior or misconduct. We, again, covered this last week. During that 12 months, over 30% said they didn't report it, and all survey participants were asked why they didn't report it, and 40% of them said they declined to report it out of fear of retaliation. Calls to the Monitor's hotline have independently and repeatedly echoed the same concerns. Like, he's not making it up. This is happening systemically and frequently and across the board. Borowski had written that both Fain's secretary-treasurer and vice president for Stellantis complained that they were removed from their assignments within the union because they wouldn't go along with spending requests from the UAW. Spending requests being the raises for Fain's girlfriend and her sister, which then would take into effect not just for them, but for everyone that had that title, which would have been a lot more money. The demotions had a chilling effect on the debate within the union. That specifically reports to the Monitor's hotline from union staff have cited the actions taken against Secretary Treasurer and VP as driving retaliation fears that reporting alleged abuses might lead to retribution from the president's office, because he'll figure out where it came from. He says, given the fragility of the union's cultural perception of retaliation, whether they were appropriate or not, how these recent acts were perceived by the union staff must be taken into account, like we said, when tackling this persistent cultural challenge. I think I read that before. All right. There's a lot more to this, too. And this is, like I said, Mike goes deep on this one, and he talks a lot about several different problems that all stem from one specific guy, Shawn Fain. Now, they rigged, I'll be the one to make that accusation that somehow that election for him was rigged. They didn't send out the ballots to anyone. It was the first time the entire UAW membership, not just the Barnes and the captains, were given the ability to vote at the union. All right. And they didn't let anybody know, and they didn't tell anyone who was running. Again, 483 votes, 133,000 members. And I think there's even more than that.
This is the most election of our lifetime.
Well, they love appointing candidates. That's what the Democrats do, right? How is this different from an insurance company? You're right, Anna. They pay in their dues, not insurance, in case shit happens, right?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
I'm sorry. Yes, Saul, the United Auto Workers. UAW is the United Auto Workers. They're the ones that work for all the car companies. But UAW also has a lot of other union members that are not working for the for one of the big three auto workers. They actually just recently unionized a plant in, was it for Audi or for Volkswagen? They just won one for Volkswagen in Tennessee, and they lost one for Mercedes in Alabama. But there was a little bit of monkey business there too. CBC voter, good to see you. All right. Team Orca, I used to be a statistician of sorts. The amount of employer on employee violence is significantly higher than you would think. You bet. All right. Well, thank you. I appreciate that, Anna. If our channel was, well, we do have a shitty little, it's not a shitty little channel, but it's a little channel nonetheless. Nobody's worried about our little channel, was really what I meant to say. But senior leadership was a toddler. He still is a toddler right now. Ghost Start is breaking news that Bezalel Smotrich orders the confiscation of 100 million shekels from the Palestinian Authority to compensate the Israeli families of those killed in the operation on October 7th. Ugh. Oh, boy.
What a fucking... Mm-hmm.
Okay. Anna Mayers, UAW has come to seem like a giant grift, and that's putting it mildly. Well, they're a protection racket is what they are. All right. And they're not even a very good one because they're not protecting their base. They're more in cahoots with the boss than they are with the workers. All right. Yeah. You had one job and exactly they couldn't do it. All right. Go Start. 60,000 Americans live in illegal Jewish settlements in the West Bank. All right. As well as 23,400 Americans. Oh, I guess it's cutting off. That's weird. Let me fix that. 23,400 Americans. There we go. Hey, serving in the Israeli army. Wow, 23,000 Americans serving in the army. Many are posting videos on social media showing them committing war crimes, and I hope they're prosecuted when they come back home. As they should. As they should. As Kit Cabello would say. Shout out to our friend Kit. All right. Topher over.
Is that your excuse for a Chicagan accent?
I wouldn't even call that Chicago, but Topher over on Kick. Oh no, he moved over to YouTube. Good to see you, Topher, over there. UAW hides stuff like Kamala's DA office. Very funny. Very true. The mafia would be preferable to the UAW. I think, be shame if something happened to your nice little job there. That's right. All right. I don't know if you have any of the John Deere story in here. I don't have the John Deere story, but I know that they're also got screwed over. We reported on John Deere 2 years ago and how mad they were at what the UAW did.
Hoffa was breaking kneecaps, people.
Yes, he was. That's Teamsters. But that's union. That's union leadership. Difference. And also not just John Deere, also UAW was Carrier, I believe. Carrier workers are UAW, and there was one other one I'm thinking of that just slipped my mind that we were talking about, UAW members. And then, of course, there's the ones, the workers in California, that school workers are aligned with UAW. All right. Now it's Hurricane Debbie. Is that what they're calling it now? All right. Yeah. And then we got Fall Gators for Kit. I'm retired. Union deep dives don't interest me. Okay, as long as my make my money next Friday coming, I didn't get the rent, and out the door I went. Yeah, speaking of paying the rent and out the door I went, if you can support independent media and support our project for the Indie Media Awards to provide cartoon illustrations for all of the Indie Media Award honorees of their faces, and we'll do some really cool stuff with that. Zago's excited. He's seen some of the stuff that we're putting together, some of the artwork and some of the ways to incorporate that. We might put them into shirts. I don't know. It depends. We're going to have to get permission from the people themselves to use their face and their impression on a shirt and figure out how that might work. But we'll certainly make that available to everyone. And it'll be available at indiemediaawards.substack.com. You'll see all of them there at some point. So
here we got Longshoreman Union in the house. Look at them.
Nice.
Look at them doing it.
Good shit.
The Longshoremen. We
support independent media. We are totally user funded. We really appreciate the people that hang out in chat. They are the people that make this network and this channel what it is. And without you guys, we don't really exist. I mean, we would do this even if it was just us. We started out just us, but man, we need all that support that you can give us. So we really appreciate that. We got that QR code up there. We talked about this last week, but we're going to have the Zago brothers create some cartoon art. They've gotten already about 15 Indie Media Award honorees they had done on this poster called Truth Tellers. Hey, how about that? indiemediaawards.substack.com. You can see the whole list. But those are the best of the best in independent media, from live streamers to journalists to outlets and video creators. We have a list with all of their links and ways to find and support them. And we're going to do something special this year. We teamed up with Zago Brothers to create cartoon illustrations of each Indie Media Award honoree, and even some people to represent some of the outlets. We were trying to figure out what to do. And that's going to be a lot of fun. And so that's what the QR code and the Ko-fi is going to go towards, is supporting that with Zago and paying him for his time and for his work.